Shalom, Israel. First and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of the house of David. Salutations to you brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, teaching the truth in righteousness and sincerity. To you Israelite foreigners, come back home to the truth. To those that passed on, serving the Lord, the dead in Yahweh Shai shall arise first. Oh, that was it. All right, so just want to bring up this, go into this video that's circulating across the internet with this old Caucasian woman that is spitting in the face of a so-called black woman, which I actually think the part that I heard, I kind of think I heard a Caribbean accent. I actually saw some, like a more full version. Still wasn't the full version, because the full version would have been, you know, before and after the camera rolled. Because this is what I'm gonna tell y'all, and this is why racism has been able to be so prevalent in our society without being able to be proven. Is you can't prove. 9 times out of 10 you can't. I'm gonna say 9 times out of 10. I'm not gonna say you can't. You can't 9 times out of 10 prove racism. Racism is tough. At no point did the woman call her any disparaging names. At no point, and even if she did, it wouldn't have been like, well, she didn't call her a racial epithet. You know, the older white woman knew full well that the camera was rolling. So if you put yourself in her shoes, it would behoove you not to say racist, you know, call her any type of N-word or any type of you know, like I said, racial epithet. Another thing that I want to look at, or we have to discuss, is if you brought that up in court is going to say, well, because it happened to me before. I've been part of I've been the defendant in a case that was open shut. If you look at a videotape of the incident, but the defense attorney himself asked the question, or didn't ask the question, but said, well, we can only prove, we can't go according to what happened before and after the camera started rolling. So for all we know, you could still be guilty. You just look innocent on the part that's actually on tape. So that's how I know that's something that's going to be brought up, and it's a fair assessment in general, even though a lot of times, you know, you could kind of common sense the situation, but common sense doesn't hold up in court. So what I'm saying about this tape is that unfortunately you can't even go in a court of law and prove that the old lady was wrong. Or let me not say wrong. You can't go in a court of law and prove that this lady was the aggressor. That lady's lawyer can say, well, this young so-called black woman slapped up, spit on her before the camera started rolling. You know, they can say that. You know, that's what beyond a shadow of a doubt, or what did they say? Beyond reasonable doubt. You know, they play with the law to favor themselves. And although I don't believe that the woman was spit at her, I do believe that the woman was probably rude to her, because Caribbean women are like that. No disrespect to my Caribbeans, tribe of Benjamin, but a lot of y'all, you know what I'm saying? I know Caribbean people. A lot of Caribbean women are rude, especially to black African American men and women. You know, this is a white woman, so I would generally think that no, that wasn't the case. But it's not like Caribbean people haven't, in particular women, don't have a fucking case history of being rude to people. You know what I mean? So even though, like I said, they're particularly rude to Judah, in my assessment, they're nice to even Hispanics, Dominicans, and all that other shit. Caribbeans are nice to. It's that tribe of Judah, that head tribe that they seem to have a particular dislike for. But yeah, that's pretty much, unfortunately, the video itself, in and of itself, is not an indictment against this old white woman being even wrong in that situation. She was wrong. At the end of the day, according to law, you still don't retaliate and spit and throw things at people. But like I said, in the court of law, in Esau's law, the video is not going to prove much other than what happened while the camera was rolling. Now, if you get a nice little ring video like you had with those two Edomites that were killed by their neighbor, if you get a nice video that was rolling from before the conversation took place, before they started arguing, you know, then you got something going right there. Then you got something, you know, that you could actually use. You know, but if you don't have footage that started from when they first met type shit, then you don't really have nothing to go on. And I know all my people that love to point out racism might hate me for it, because then that's another thing. Then it becomes an indictment on me for pointing that out. You know, it becomes an indictment on somebody who's thinking logically and not emotionally. You know, you have to look at the situation logically. And if you want to prove racism, which I believe it is, I do believe it's still racism. I do believe that the woman, the older white woman, so-called, was the aggressor. But that video is not going to hold up in a court of law. And that's how they win all these fucking court cases. You got to stop thinking that you got an open and shut case because you have video of racism. You know, nothing's an open and shut case with Esau. Their lawyers are more stronger than ours. The law will act in their favor before us. Otherwise, there wouldn't be all these scriptures talking about how they would be the head and we would be the tail. You want to prove racism? You want to prove that they're racist? You have to first prove that there's racism. Racism, you can't, it's very difficult to prove racism from a standpoint of looking at individual things. You have to look at racism by a collective. And what I mean by that, right? Racism is not one black person or Hispanic person going for a job and not getting the job, and a white guy happens to get the job. Racism is when you see the same company has a long history of not hiring people of color for jobs, and now with the laws the way they're set up, they have to hire people of color. So now it's funny, the law has made it harder to prove racism than before. You know, you got this Rooney Rule in the NFL. You have to at least interview black candidates, but you don't have to hire them. You know, you don't have to hire them. I was scratching my nose, by the way, in case anybody thinks I was picking it. But yeah, you don't even have to hire them in football. You know, the Rooney Rule only indicates that you have to go and you have to interview a coach or a prospective coach, black coach or Latino coach for a position. You don't have to, you know, like I said, you don't really have to hire them. You know, which is funny because look at Ron Rivera. You know, you could see, you know, he's a so-called minority. He qualifies. See, that shows you Hispanics, you got to stop the bullshit. He is actually considered, like, if we go according to the Rooney Rule, you can hire him, or you can the word I'm looking for? Interview him for a coaching job, and you're in compliance with the Rooney Rule. So it goes to show, listen, you Latinos, man, we're not white. We're not incorporated in white society. Doesn't fucking matter how you look at it or how white you want to be. You know, Ron Rivera is a Latino head coach in the NFL. You know, and the Rooney Rule applies to him. If I wanted to be a coach in the NFL, the Rooney Rule applies to me. They would have to at least pretend that I have a chance at a job because of the Rooney Rule. And that's same thing with affirmative action. Well, I think with affirmative action, they actually have to have a certain amount of minorities on payroll. But minorities could be a lot of shit. Could be women, could be gay. You know, it's like the laws are not actually set up to stop racism. Because racism, you can't stop racism. You can't stop systemic racism. Yeah, sure, they'll hire 100 people of color. They'll just hire 50 of them as food vendors or food in the cafeteria, and the other 50 as what's that word? Custodians. And boom, this company has 100 black employees or black and brown employees. Or make it worse, you could be a white gay guy. You're a minority. Because that's the thing, these laws that you think protect black people and Hispanic people that were really created to make black people feel that there's no racism, they protect other minorities more than African Americans. You know, when Michael Jackson did that song, they don't really care about us, man. They don't care about Latinos either. They listen. They don't care about none of us, man. Everybody will get justice before a black and brown person gets justice. That's just the way this society has been set up. All men are not created equal. They didn't consider people of color men at the time. So it's not all men are created equal. It's all white men are created equal. There's evil that goes on in society. And honestly, we're sitting here fighting the wrong battle. We shouldn't be fighting against racism. Racism's going to exist, systemically or beyond systemic. It's not racism. It's black and Hispanic people need to just start looking out for self, man. And by self, I don't mean just yourself. I mean, first off, we need to stop being such conniving scumbags. We need to start looking out for our people first. And we need to stop discriminating against one another. Black and brown people, Hispanic people have a lot of resources because of the fact that white people try to, you know, sometimes it's kind of like, hey, who do we hate a little less? You know, some of these Hispanics, they speak good English, and they're totally submissive to our system of oppression and all of that. You know, I'd rather take them because they should be happy that we're even allowing them in our country. That's pretty much the way they look at us. So, of course, if they're going to pick one of the slaves to look out for or to be a little less oppressive to, they're gonna look at us and say, hey, well, you know, like I said, a lot of these Hispanics, they speak good English. A lot of them even look like us. We're still considered a lower class. We're just considered a slightly higher class than African Americans. And that's not something to make us happy, that the devil himself looks at us as a higher class. Or maybe not a higher class. I think the better way to put it is we're in the same class, but we're just higher in the class. Stupid ass people don't know how to fucking, of course it's a New Yorker. New Yorkers don't know how to drive, man. But anyway, yeah, that's what it is. That's all it is. They look at us, they give us a little bit more consideration than African Americans, because they have more over us. You know, like I said, they can send a lot of us back to our countries. They can do a lot to Latino people. Latino people, a lot of us are in this country scared. A lot of us are in this country scared. Scared because we don't know at any given moment. I can tell you, me personally, I done caught a couple cases or been in a couple situations where I could have got sent back. You know, for all that don't know, I wasn't born here. I'm legal, but they can still send me back. They can take back that fucking green card. But it's very important, you know, and the main point of this video and what I'm talking about is, you know, it's really dealing with that particular instance or situation, but it's also dealing with how are we going to prove that there is racism when everybody that's smart in 2021 is going to say, no, I'm not racist. Do you think I go to these jobs, if I ever had a job interview or anything to go to, or if I go to a customer's house and say, hey, I hate you white people? I don't do that. I can't do that. I'd be stupid. First off, it could be an Israelite that looks white. You know what I'm saying? But on the other end, it's like, you know, you're not going to get nowhere in this country offending people. You're going to lose a lot of opportunities and things. You know, that's why we always preach, be a good Clark Kent. You know, be Superman when we're out there teaching the word. But be a good Clark Kent. You know, and don't be a blatant racist Israelite. Be very covert about it, because at the end of the day, you know, you're not gonna get nowhere doing it in your private life. You know, you're walking around, you know, cursing out white people. You know, trust and believe, you're gonna lose more than you gain. You know, but as far as proving racism, when you want to prove racism, you have to develop a case history. You can't. Fuck. All right, work-related call. Talk to y'all later.